Morning on this app. A lot of bullshit. A lot of shit about white people being the worst people on the earth and that black people had the natural God, the magic God, but it was the Muslims and the Christians that enslaved and raped and destroyed the African, and they have the world's real religion.
Wait, did you say Earth?
Earth.
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 Like Alf? Like Alf? Remember Alf? Or you mean Earth?
Like the truth. Earth. Like the truth at your birth and at your death. The truth is the truth of the earth from your birth until your death. Then you have to ask yourself, was Clubhouse worth it?
Oh, I have something to read to you, my friend.
Okay, then you will be modded. 3 minutes to 10 minutes. That's the book club rule.
Okay, so this is the hypostases of archons. The book is called The Reality of the Rulers. It's an anonymous tractate presenting an esoteric interpretation of Genesis 1 to 6, partially in the form of a revelation discourse between an angel and a questioner, while the tractate illustrates a wide range of Hellenistic syncretism, whatever. The most evident components are Jewish, although it presents a form of the hypostases of archons, shows clearly a Christian features, thus it can be considered Christian work. Its theological perspectives is a various Gnostic as perhaps Nephian affirmation. It is generally assumed that the hypostases of archons, like all the other non-Hammadic texts, is translated from Greek. The possibility of Coptic on the phrase "besides me" in Isaiah 46:9, and blind in this hypostasis, in this chapter, such as well as the description of animal-headed rulers, suggests that the performance may have been Egyptian. This document is tentatively dated in 3rd century CE. It's obviously no later than the 4th century to which non-Hammadic collection is dated. But the well-developed Gnostic treatment of material in this document, as well as the Midrashic handling of spiritual material, argue against the early date. Furthermore, the philosophical orientation of, I'm assuming, chapter 96, 11 through 14, has identified as atypical of the 3rd century Neoplatonism. The questions of date and providence are complicated, and the possibility that the work as it stands is a result of Christian editors having combined the narrative sources, interpreting parts of Genesis with a revelation discourse concerning with the soteriology and eschatology, and placing them both with Christian. Hypostasis of the archons is certainly the work of a Gnostic teacher instructing an audience while using previous material. He writes, from a position of authority, even in angelic revelation, where the characters in the discourse is abstinently speaking, however it's said. The audience is a Christian Gnostic community, aware of the material of both testaments and accepting the authority of Paul. They are familiar with Jewish literary traditions, including the Apocrypha, or elliptic text. A tradition functioning from the apocalyptic, providing reassurance for the insecure community. It's operative here. The hypostasis of archons and thus an esoteric work written for the self-conscious community, which probably felt pressure from the Christian community that defined itself as orthodox and others as heretical. There are clearly some literary relationships between the hypostases of archons and on the origin of the world, which follows this tractate in Code Second, both aim to draw a common source. Later, the latter mentions the book or books of Noria, which the Ephesians also refer to. Which Epiphanius also refers to. It such suggested that the hypostasis of archons is to be identified with that source, but without compelling evidence. There is a brief introduction quoting the great apostle Paul. The hypostasis of archons offer its methodological narratives. The main characters in the methodological drama which unfolds includes a blind ruler, Samuel, also called Daka, or fool, and Yaldabud, who blasphemies against the divine, the spiritual woman who arouses or roses Adam and outwits its rulers, the snake. An introduction, instructor, who counsels the men and women to eat the fruit forbidden by the rulers. Noria, the daughter of Eve, the virgin, pure in character and exalted in knowledge. Page 93 of the tractate will focus changes on somewhat the center stage now is the great angel of Athena, who reveals to Nora, the original and destiny of the archonic powers. Hypostases of archon proclaims, as the title indicates, the reality of the archon rulers. Far from being merely fictitious, imaginary powers and archons are all too real. These rulers indeed exist. This is a grim reality for the Christian Gnostics, who define their own spiritual nature in opposition to the ruling and enslaved authorities. Yet, as the document promises, the Christian Gnostics can have hope that their spiritual nature will be more lasting than the archons, and their heavenly destiny will be more glorious. In the end, the rulers will perish, and the Gnostics, the children of the light, will know the Father and praise him.
Okay, that was like 3 to 10 minutes in the book club. Welcome to the book club, everybody. Invite your friends. This is not the Socratic dialogue. This is straight up information. This is gathering information, distributing information. This is called how you don't waste fucking time. This is called interesting. But the same conversation over and over and over again with the same people saying the same shit. What the fuck? The point is that? No fucking point. It's a waste of time. So that means people are doing this all the time. They're wasting all their time. But anyways, I'm going to read from a book. Then I hope you will read from a book. We read from 3 to 10 minutes in the book club. We don't talk about the books we read. We just read the books. That's the secret of my magic book club is we don't waste any time. We just distribute information. You pick it up and you run with it. That's it. That's it. That's the whole show. That's the whole game. No more wasted time. No more opinions. And that's it. I'm going to read a book now. Here we go. This is Ayn Rand, page number 22. The process of concept formation does not consist merely of grasping a few simple abstractions, such as chair, table, hot, cold, and of learning to speak. It consists of a method of using one's consciousness, best designated by the term conceptualizing. It is not a passive state of registering random impressions. Oh, Megatron, the reason why I bought this book is because remember that day with Simon, we were like, we're gonna.
Yeah. I have some books in PDF. I haven't began to read them yet though, because I got stuck having to do other stuff, like buy my wife a car. Do you know what that's like?
I know what it's like to buy pretty girls nice stuff.
What it's like.
You know what's
buy a car that.
You know what's funny about this Ayn Rand is Simon is right. It's very good, but Simon does a horrible job explaining it. That's the funny part. Simon doesn't actually explain it at all, like barely at all. But when you read Ayn Rand, you're like, holy shit, this is pretty smart. Like this is very advanced thinking. Okay, continuing on, page 22. It is not a passive state of registering random impressions. It is an actively sustained process of identifying one's impressions in conceptual terms, of integrating every event and every observation into a conceptual context, of grasping relationships, differences, similarities in one's perceptual material and abstracting them into new concepts, of drawing inferences, of making deductions, of reaching conclusions, of asking new questions and discovering new answers and expanding one's knowledge into an ever-growing sum. The faculty that directs this process, the faculty that works by means of concepts, is reason. The process is thinking. Reason is the faculty that identifies and integrates the material provided by man's senses. It is a faculty that man has to exercise by choice. Thinking is not an automatic function. In any hour and issue of his life, man is free to think or to evade that effort. Thinking requires a state of full focused awareness. The act of focusing one's consciousness is volitional. Man can focus his mind to a full, active, purposefully directed awareness of reality, or he can unfocus it and let himself drift in a semi-conscious daze, merely reacting to any chance stimulus of the immediate moment. At the mercy of his undirected sensory perceptual mechanism of any random associated connections it might happen to make. When man unfocuses his mind, he may be said to be conscious in a subhuman sense of the word, since he experiences sensations and perceptions. But in the sense of the word applicable to man, in the sense of a consciousness which is aware of reality and able to deal with it, a consciousness able to direct the actions and provide for the survival of a human being, an unfocused mind is not conscious. Psychologically, the choice to think or not is the choice to focus or not. Existentially, the choice to focus or not is the choice to be conscious or not. Metaphysically, the choice to be conscious or not is the choice of life or death. Consciousness, for those living organisms which possess it, is the basic means of survival. For man, the basic means of survival is reason. Man cannot survive as animals do by the guidance of mere percepts. A sensation of hunger will tell him that he needs food, if he has learned to identify it as hunger, but it will not tell him how to obtain his food, and it will not tell him what food is good for him or poisonous. He cannot provide for his simplest physical needs without a process of thought. No percepts and no instincts will tell him how to light a fire, how to weave cloth, how to forge tools, how to make a wheel, how to make an airplane, how to perform an appendectomy, how to produce an electric light bulb, or an electric tube, or a cyclotron, or a box of matches. Yet his life depends on such knowledge, and only a volitional act of his consciousness, a process of thought, can provide it. But man's responsibility goes still further. A process of thought is not automatic, instinctive, nor involuntary, nor infallible. Man has to initiate it, to sustain it, and to bear responsibility for its results. He has to discover how to tell what is true or false and how to correct his own errors. He has to discover how to validate his concepts, his conclusions, his knowledge. He has to discover the rules of thought, the laws of logic, to direct his thinking. Nature gives him no automatic guarantee of the efficacy of his mental effort. Nothing is given to man on earth except a potential and the material on which to actualize it. The potential is a superlative machine, his consciousness. But it is a machine without a spark plug, a machine of which his own will has to be the spark plug, the self starter, and the driver. He has to discover how to use it, and he has to keep it in constant action. The material is the whole of the universe, with no limits set to the knowledge he can acquire and to the enjoyment of life he can achieve. But everything he needs or desires has to be learned, discovered, and produced by him, by his own choice, by his own effort, by his own mind. A being who does not know automatically what is true or false cannot know automatically what is right or wrong, what is good for him or evil. Okay, that's 2 pages of Ayn Rand.
What a rant. What a rant. I'm looking on a lot of poetry books.
Mm-hmm.
Some old ones. And then I got into this song yesterday. And it's because I saw TikTok. I'll show you the TikTok now. It was this black guy who was singing Tool. and he does it acoustically, and I never heard this song like this ever in my entire life. And I'm gonna share the fucking TikTok with you because it was very important. I saw him doing this, and it's such a song that you would never see. What's up, sister? It's a song that you would never see a black man with an acoustic guitar singing. So that in and of itself was like, shit, what song is he singing? And then when he sang it, he did it so good that it inspired me to learn the song yesterday. That's why I was singing it.
Do you want to pin it or put it in the chat?
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to put it in right now. And it's like a fucking, at first it looks like a goofy video. Like I didn't want to ruin like the picture I had in my head about who this guy was. So I started scrolling And there were like moments where I was like, "Oh, this guy's really goofy." I was like, "So I don't want to ruin the video by looking at all his other goofy shit." So I just kind of kept it.
You know what happens is when you find if you create a successful video on YouTube, what the creator does is they just recreate that successful video over and over and over again. There's this, there's these two guys on YouTube that like sing this one stupid song. It's like, I need a new heart and my heart is broken. Now I got you. And then they feature like a girl or some entertainer who sings the song. They do the audio enhancement, but they got like 25 million subscribers and they're probably making a few million a year singing the same stupid song over and over again.
I'm not that lucky.
A few million. If you do 500 million impressions on YouTube and you're a paid creator, that's $2.5 million in revenue. And every month YouTube pays out $1 billion to its creators. Meanwhile, Clubhouse gives you the option to get some gold coins that you can't even cash out. It's so stupid. This app is so stupid. It's such a waste of time. But not in the book club, because we're using our brain here to improve our brain.
Yeah, no, the book club is superior. Yeah, superior.
Carmen, welcome to the book club. We are reading books to each other here. Do you have a book you'd like to read, Carmen? Excellent. We also have Fatima here and Ben.
So he does this so fucking good. And I'm not even gonna ruin it for you. Okay, Carmen? I'm not gonna ruin anything for you.
Look at Megatron's PTR. He's got the Sephiroth, or the Tree of Life, overlaid on Mother Mary.
Yeah. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, let's check out this TikTok.
There goes the video. Watch the video. I got to stop watching the video before I post it because I just think he does such a good job. There's a shadow just behind me. Charting every step I take, making every promise that I
Yeah, that guy's getting laid with that song. Make your day. Okay, we're continuing on in the book club. That was our brief music segue to another book. We are here to improve our brains by using our brains. Carmen, would you like to read a book for 3 to 10 minutes? Now's your chance. 30 seconds going once. 30 seconds going twice. 33 seconds going 3 times. No? Okay, Megatron, it's your turn in the queue to read a book. Do you have a book, Megatron?
I want to read to you the lyrics to the song. And I'm going to read them as like a poem. And I'm not going to read them as an actual song. But I might have it playing in the background. Oh, there's my TV here. Okay, this is Stains doing the acoustic version of Kitover. The song originally by Tool. Okay, this is Every Shadow's Just Behind You. Okay, hold on a second. Let me lower this up. Listen to this though. It's very good. words. It says, every shadow just behind me, crowding every step I take, breaking every promise empty, pointing every finger at me, waiting like a stalking butler, pull upon the thing of rest, knowing now the path is lost me, just because the sun has set. Jesus was a fucking whistler. Nothing but the past is done. Jesus was a fucking whistler. Nothing but the past is done. Why can we not be so good? I just want to start this over. And why can't we just sleep forever? Just want to start this. I just want to start this over. The second verse. I am just a worthless liar. I am just an imbecile. I'm a lonely complication. Rest in me and fall as well. I will find the center in you. I will chew it up and leave. I will work to elevate you. Just enough to bring you down. Mother Mary was a whisper. Nothing but the past is done. Mary was a fucking whistler. Nothing but the past is done. Why can't we not be so? I just want to start this over. Can't we just dream forever? I just want this started over this time. I know I came with that verse. It kind of repeats the same thing from the second verse. I just think this was a great song. What do you think about that, man? This song is amazing.
Okay, thank you for that share, Almighty Megatron. Welcome back, everybody, to the Clown House Book Club, where we are fighting the brain rot minute to minute. We are using our brains to improve our brains by reading what's called books. Many people have forgotten about books because cell phones have taken over their minds. They are no longer actually alive. It's the cell phone controlling the body. But here in the book club, we are liberating our brains from cell phones using books. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are reading actual books. These long forgotten pieces of paper with wisdom and intelligence embedded on the sheets. Welcome back to the book club. Okay, we just had a submission from Almighty Megatron Prime, the leader of the Catholic, Christian, Jewish, Muslim debate room that has been going on for many years now, plaguing Barth's mind day to day as he works, drilling and hammering nails at construction sites without a partner. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a partner because he's on Clubhouse all day. And his manager is like, you know what? That guy's on Clubhouse all day. He doesn't deserve a partner. But here in the book club, he's got reading partners. That's right. We're reading books to each other because we care for one another. Instead of having pointless, useless conversations, we are sharing high valuable information. Okay, Carmen, do you have a book you'd like to read? Now's your second chance to participate. Carmen? Nope. Okay, Carmen. Carmen, we're putting you in the goo. The stage is only for participants. Sorry, Carmen. Okay, this is page number 24, Ayn Rand. I'm going to read two more pages from Ayn Rand, and then that'll be my Ayn Rand for the day. Then I'm going to move on to our super special bonus section just for the Gnostics. Page 24. Yet he needs that knowledge in order to live. He is not exempt from the laws of reality. He is a specific organism to a specific nature that requires specific actions to sustain his life. He cannot achieve his survival by arbitrary means or by random motions, nor by blind urges, nor by chance, nor by whim. That which his survival requires is set by his nature and is not open to his choice. What is open to his choice is only whether he will discover it or not, whether he will choose the right goals and values or not. He is free to make the wrong choice, but not free to succeed with it. He is free to evade reality. He is free to unfocus his mind and stumble blindly down any road he pleases, but not free to avoid the abyss he refuses to see. Knowledge, for any conscious organism, is the means of survival. To a living consciousness, every is implies an ought. Man is free to choose not to be conscious, but not free to escape the penalty of unconsciousness, destruction. Man is the only living species that has the power to act as his own destroyer, and that is the way he has acted through most of his history. Oh, we got Mountain Man. I hope you'll join us, Mountain. You need this more than anyone. It's called reading books. So, Mountain, what we're doing is we're reading for 3 to 10 minutes each.
What's up, dude?
What up? I'm reading right now The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand. I'm reading 2 pages, and I'm putting all this on YouTube. What then are the right goals for man to pursue? What are the values his survival requires? That is the question to be answered by the science of ethics. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why man needs a code of ethics. Now you can assess the meaning of the doctrines which tell you that ethics is the province of the irrational, that reason cannot guide man's life, that his goals and values should be chosen by vote or by whim, that ethics has nothing to do with reality, with existence, with one's practical actions and concerns, or that the goal of ethics is beyond the grave, that the dead need ethics, not the living. Ethics is not a mystic fantasy, nor a social convention, nor a dispensable subjective luxury to be switched or discarded in any emergency. Ethics is an objective, metaphysical necessity of man's survival, not by the grace of the supernatural, or of your neighbors, nor of your whims, but by the grace of reality and the nature of life. I quoted from Galt's speech. Man has been called a rational being, but rationality is a matter of choice, and the alternative his nature offers him is rational being or suicidal animal. Man has to be man by choice. He has to hold his life as a value by choice. He has to learn to sustain it by choice. He has to discover the values it requires and practice his virtues by choice. A code of values accepted by choice is a code of morality. The standard of value of the objectivist ethics, the standard by which one judges what is good or evil, is man's life, or that which is required for man's survival qua man. Since reason is man's basic means of survival, that which is proper to the life of a rational being is the good. That which negates, opposes, or destroys it is evil. Since everything man needs has to be discovered by his own mind and produced by his own effort, the 2 essentials of the method of survival proper to a rational being are thinking and productive work. If some men do not choose to think, but survive by imitating and repeating like trained clubhouse animals the routine of sounds and motions they learned from others, never making an effort to understand their own work, it still remains true that their survival is made possible only by those who did choose to think and to discover the motions they are repeating. The survival of such mental parasites depends on blind chance. Their unfocused minds are unable to know whom to imitate, whose motions it is safe to follow. They are the men who march into the abyss, trailing after any destroyer who promises them to assume the responsibility they evade, the responsibility of being conscious. If some men attempt to survive by means of brute force or fraud, by looting, robbing, cheating, or enslaving the men who produce, it still remains true that their survival is made possible only by their victims, only by the men who choose to think and to produce the goods which they, the looters, are seizing. Such looters are parasites incapable of survival, who exist by destroying those who are capable, those who are pursuing a course of action proper to man. The men who attempt to survive, not by means of reason, but by means of force, are attempting to survive by the method of animals. But just as animals would not be able to survive by attempting the method of plants by rejecting locomotion and waiting for the soil to feed them, so men cannot survive by attempting the method of animals, by rejecting reason and counting on productive men to serve as their prey. Such looters may achieve their goals for the range of a moment, at the price of destruction, the destruction of their victims and their own. As evidence, I offer you any criminal or any dictatorship. Okay, that's 2 pages of Ayn Rand. Welcome to the stage, Joanna. We are reading books. Mountain is next in the queue. If you have a book, Mountain.
I'm driving across the city. I'm going to hit the weed shop, so I can't really do that right now.
Oh, well, then get your weed and come back and read to us when you're stoned.
I will.
Okay, great.
I will. I definitely will, sir.
Because if you put tetrahydrocannabinoid delta 9 in your bloodstream and you don't read a book, well, then you're wasting the chemical. You're supposed to use it for therapeutic purposes and enlightenment purposes. Joanna, you are next in the queue. Joanna is a book reader. She is an author. I have created an audiobook for her about her wonderful novel. Joanna, do you want to read any of your books or something else? You have 3 to 10 minutes. This is a safe space. There's no Socratic dialogue here. We just read books. That means we share information with each other.
Wow, what an honor. I would, but I'm doing something right now, but I love you for that.
Okay, we have Abba and Alumi. We also have Joe B.
Again with my high intellectual presence.
We have Alumi here, who is a holder of the Logos. Alumi, you get 3 to 10 minutes to read whatever you want, and once you read, you do get a mod badge in this room. Only book readers.
I want.
Anything you want, 3 to 10 minutes.
Let me pull something off the shelf.
And Abba, you get to go in the queue too, Abba. We try to limit conversations to 30 seconds and book reading 3 minutes to 10 minutes here in the Clown House Book Club.
No problem. Let us read. I've always liked reading this text to the ignorant masses. It is by R.T. Mullins, The End of the Timeless God. This book has given me the metaphysical chops to engage and reach enlightenment. Anyways, let us begin. Theological confusion number 1. God is temporal and timeless, or something in between. One major problem area in contemporary theology is a complete lack of conceptual clarity. With regard to divine eternality, it is important to get clear on what the debate between divine timelessness and divine temporality amounts to. Unfortunately, this is not always achieved. An alarming number of contemporary evangelical theologians continue to propagate the notion that God is timeless and temporal as he relates to creation and the unfolding of the plan of redemption. These views are barely explicated in any meaningful and plan of redemption. Any meaningful and coherent way. Usually there's a bit of nuance in such plans with God. Ultimately, they reduce to a contradiction. One example comes from George Weir. It's a plan of creation. God became both omnipresent and omnitemporal while remaining in himself apart from creation. Only man's spatial and contradiction. Weir tries to avoid this contradiction by saying God is timeless qua himself, but temporal qua related to creation. The move he is attempting to make is intended to be analogous to a move made in the Incarnation. This will be discussed at length in Chapter 7, which focuses on the Incarnation. For now, it is worth pointing out why the move Ware makes is not analogous to the Incarnation. In the Incarnation, the quo move is intended to predicate the contradictory properties to different numerically distinct natures. For instance, only the human nature of Christ suffers while the divine nature does not suffer. While God's relation to creation, there are not numerically distinct natures or where to appeal to. There is simply the divine nature. The divine nature, it appears, is timeless and temporal on Ware's account. That is incoherent. Further, it is not clear to me that Ware actually understands what divine timelessness and divine temporality means. This is a persistent problem in contemporary theology. Closely related to the claim that God is timeless and temporal, one can find theologians saying that the atemporal God experiences time. Perhaps one might say God experiences time differently than we do. This is a mistake, however, because an atemporal God cannot experience time. To truly have an experience of time takes time, and this is not something a timeless God can do. Another common confusion that is touted about to find a third way. We need to get beyond the divide between timelessness and temporality, one might say, and find a third way between the two positions. Trying to find a third way is like hunting for a sniper in haggis. It is a futile hunt because it is nothing more than a trick perpetrated on the uninformed. When it comes to whether God is temporal or atemporal, there simply is no third way. The two positions God is are logically contradictory. If they were logically contradictory, like your pet is either a dog or a cat, you could find another option. With logically contradictory properties, either God exists or does not exist. There are no other options. In order to fully understand where these theological claims go awry, one must understand what divine timelessness and divine temporality each mean. These will be given in extensive treatment in Chapter 2 and 3, but for now, a few quick definitions can be given. God is timeless if and only if God exists without beginning, without end, and without succession. To say that God exists without succession means that God does not do one thing and then another. The life of a timeless God is not characterized by a succession of moments like temporal beings are. God is temporal if and only if God exists without beginning, without end, and with succession. The life of a temporal God is characterized by a succession of moments. In other words, a temporal God has a before and after in his life. He experiences one moment of time after another, just like we do. A timeless God does not experience one moment of time after another. Instead, a timeless God experiences his life all at once. With these basic definitions before us, we can see that the claim that God is timeless and temporal is false. God cannot have succession in his life and lack succession in his life. This is a straightforward contradiction. We can see that there of divine eternality that is indistinguishable from divine timelessness. Regarding step 1, the Barthian might say that classical theism was invaded or corrupted by the static categories of Greek metaphysics. She might say that contemporary theologians must reject these static categories and replace them with the dynamic categories of the biblical witness. which portrays a God who is not foreign to time. This might be persuasive reasoning for some theologians, but things go awry when Parthians go on to articulate the doctrine of divine eternality. In step 2, they replace the doctrine of divine timeless in the most unfortunate way. Consider Karl Barth's articulation of divine eternality. Barth affirms that God exists without beginning and without end and without succession. He is the definition of divine timelessness. If this were not enough of a blunder, Barth goes on to praise and affirm Boethius' definition of God's eternality. He wishes to affirm with Boethius that God's life is one eternal moment that lacks the before and after, such that there is no second moment in the life of God. Boethius' definition of divine eternality is the classical statement of divine timelessness, and it is unfortunate that some systematic theologians wish to affirm this definition while trying to be divine temporalists. Barth seems to be unaware of the fact that he has just reasserted the doctrine of divine timelessness because he continually says that God is not foreign to time but exists in his own time. God's time, as Barth defines it, is without succession yet present to all of time. This is exactly what divine timelessness says. So Barth's doctrine of divine eternality is indistinguishable from divine timelessness. A more recent Barthian blunder comes from Kevin Ben Hooser. Ben Hooser says that God is outside of time and omnitemporal. This goes back to the first theological confusion. He claims that God's life is temporal because of God's dynamic three-person life. However, he says that God does not have a before and after in his life. The triune God simultaneously possesses succession such that there is no before and after in his life. This is unfortunate, for it commits the Barthian blunder. Further, the claim that God simultaneously possesses succession such that there is no before and after in the divine life is not entailed by the doctrine of the Trinity. Instead, it is simply incoherent. Succession involves a before and after, so nothing can simultaneously possess succession. There's other theological confusion. I'm sure if you'll follow it. It said 3 pages, that's 3 pages.
Yeah, usually about 2 pages is about, 3 to 10 minutes. But you can read more if you want to continue.
Are you following, or I just read more?
No, I'm following. We're listening.
Oh, I read this a while back. And going through this again. There's some points that have changed in my opinion. Okay. Alright, theological confusion. Alright. Theological confusion number 3. The Trinity entails a particular understanding of eternality. The discussion of Ben Hooser raised a popular and unfortunate widespread confusion worth mentioning. There are divine temporalists who claim that the doctrine of the Trinity entails the God is in time. Contrary to the claims of these theologians, nothing about God being triune entails that God is temporal. Various contemporary theologians have attempted to argue that the eternal processions of the Son and the Holy Spirit from the Father entail that God is temporal. Sometimes the claim is that the intra-Trinitarian relations of the divine persons entail that God is temporal. Other times, the claim is that the doctrine of the Trinity was developed by the early church fathers in reaction to and in resistance against divine timelessness. It is hard to figure out what the argument is from these theologians, and the historical accuracy of such claims is dubious at best. Certainly nothing on the surface of the doctrine of the eternal processions and relations entails divine temporality. The traditional doctrine of the eternal processions proclaims that the Father timelessly causes the Son and Spirit to timelessly exist. The traditional doctrine of the eternal relations is that the Father, Son, and Spirit are timelessly related to one another through this ineffable, mysterious procession. I fail to see how such a doctrine could push one in the direction of divine temporality. On the other side, some claim that a Trinitarian understanding of God can save divine timelessness. It is not clear, however, that the doctrine of the Trinity makes a difference to the question at hand. The doctrine of the Trinity is certainly essential for Christians, but nothing about God being three persons and one essence sheds light on the coherence of divine timelessness. In fact, I am only aware of one forceful and clear argument in the literature that attempts to argue that only divine timelessness can accomplish or can accommodate the doctrine of the Trinity. Paul Helm has argued that divine temporality, in conjunction with the doctrine of the processions, entails Arianism. However, as I have argued elsewhere, the problem is not divine temporality. The problem is that the doctrine of the eternal processions entails Arianism. In most recent writings, Helm recognizes this as well. I suggest that theologians cease to make appeals to the doctrine of the Trinity to settle the dispute over God's eternal status. Instead, theologians should focus on God's relationship to the created universe. Theological confusion number 4, placing God in the future. There is one final confusion that I wish to point out before moving forward with this book. Far too many discussions of God and time do not articulate what time is. This prevents us from fully understanding God's relationship to time. A clear understanding of time is necessary for such conversation. Fortunately, a growing number of theologians are beginning to see the importance of engaging in the philosophy of time. In particular, thinkers involved in the science-religion dialogue are aware of how significant the nature of time is for our thinking about the God-world relationship. Some of these theologians have offered coherent theories of time, but the results have been somewhat unfortunate. Some have articulated temporal understandings of God, where God somehow exists in the non-existent future, drawing the world closer to himself. God causes things from the non-existent future. It is rather unfortunate to place God in a non-existent time, as Thomas Skardel, or Skardel, I don't know, there's a double points on the A, points out to place God in the non-existent future is to place God in a temporal location that is in principle out of reach. A God who exists in the future is not a God who is present with us. I am not even certain if a God who exists in the non-existent future in fact exists. This seems like an unintended form of atheism to locate God entirely in a non-existent time. To be clear, the intent behind such statements is well-meaning. The provenance of such thinking comes from Annenberg's account of prolepsis. Prolepsis is a doctrine of the inbreaking kingdom of God and the hope that arises from this. The idea is that in Christ we see the future here and now. Pannenberg and those who follow him have taken this concept of prolepsis too far. It is one thing to say that we presently see the promises of God in Christ. In the ministry of Jesus, we get a glimpse of what God's kingdom will look like in the future. To be sure, the life, death, and resurrection of Christ grounds our eschatological hope. However, it is quite another thing to say that the future literally breaks into our present, or that God exists in the future, causing things to occur in the present. When the future is literally in our present moment of time, the future is no longer future. It is simply present. If a time exists at the present, it is present. Further, if God exists in the future and is somehow causing things in the future, his actions are predate. Light comes into existence, and then God said, "Let there be light." In I cannot help but be reminded of Pannenberg's call noted earlier. There is a need for a deep critical engagement with metaphysics and the tradition of philosophical theology. If there is any hope of advancing our understanding of God's eternality and the nature of time, one must engage in metaphysics and come to a deep understanding of the classical Christian conception of God. It is time to go on a search for the timeless God that Christians have believed in for almost 2,000 years. The aim of this book, this is a work in analytical theology. This new and developing field faces several challenges in many theological circles today. Analytical philosophy of religion is accused of being unbiblical, ahistorical, unsystematic, and downright idolatrous. According to these groups of theologians, the new project of analytic theology is assumed to follow suit. The idolatry claim while prevalent, is an ad hominem attack that does not deserve a response. So I shall not address it. With regard to the other charges, it is certainly true that some analytic philosophers of religion show little understanding of biblical studies, are quite uninformed in matters of historical theology, and often approach topics in an unsystematic and piecemeal way, which is rarely pointed out. However, is that the same is true of many other groups of theologians as well. Just think of certain Barthian theologians who proceed as if theology begins and ends with Karl Barth, or turn your attention to certain dogmatic Thomistic scholars who seem to think that nothing of great theological importance has transpired since the death of Thomas Aquinas, because the angelic doctor has solved everything. No, he hasn't. These groups of theologians appear to be rather ahistorical. To make matters worse, biblical theologians often accuse systematic theologians of not reading their Bibles, while systematic theologians often accuse biblical theologians of being unsystematic. In kind, the analytic philosophers of religion can easily accuse theologians of not reading their philosophy of religion. In the midst of such infighting, what is the analytic theologian to do? Will analytic theology be unbiblical, ahistorical, and unsystematic? My hope is the answer will be no, but time will only tell. The task set before analytic theology is one of serious interdisciplinary work. As it seeks to draw upon the rich resources of contemporary analytic philosophies, it must also draw upon the resources of biblical studies, systematic theology, as well as offer a deep engagement with the Christian tradition. In an effort to do this sort of interdisciplinary work, the analytic theologian will never be able to make everyone happy. For instance, the average analytic philosopher will have little patience for the amount of time I spend engaging the tradition, while the patience for the amount of time I spend engaging the tradition, while the average theologian will claim that I have not engaged the tradition enough. Finding a happy balance that will please all sides may be a pipe dream, but it is still a dream that I wish to pursue. The project of analytic theology is still rather young, and much work needs to be done if it is to accomplish this interdisciplinary task. My goal is to continue this project by addressing a central issue of the Christian faith, the nature of God and the God-world relationship. My aim in this text is to assess the doctrine of God that has captured the Christian imagination for almost 2,000 years. I'm not interested in views of divine timelessness that merely exist in logical space. Instead, I'm interested in examining the vision of God that has been profoundly shaped through the development of Christian thought from the early apologists to the present time. The understanding of God that I have in mind is the doctrine of God that stands behind the early Christology and Trinitarian debates. This is the doctrine of God that is contained in and stands behind the ecumenical creeds, as well as in many confessions that span the denominational divide. It is an understanding of God as timeless that becomes a part of the doctrinal deposit of the early church fathers and is taken up subsequent generations of Christian thinkers in their attempts to flesh out the whole scope of Christian theology. The doctrine of divine timelessness is not a solitary doctrine, and as such it cannot be examined in isolation from other Christian doctrines. The vision of the timeless God that has so enamored the church is one that is systematically connected to a particular set of divine attributes. These divine attributes are simplicity, immutability, and impassibility. As one shall see throughout the argument of the book, these divine attributes form a very tight package in Christian thinking. Any assessment of divine timelessness must involve an assessment of these attributes as well. These attributes are used to justify, defend, and articulate God's timeless eternality. For many classical Christian theologians and philosophers, these attributes are seen as not only mutually entailing, but identical. It is this robust classical vision of God that I shall be examining. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, excellent work. You can read a book. You get a green bean. You did it. You read a book. You're a man again. A man reads a book. Okay, this is the Clown House Book Club. If you want to read a book, Abba, now's your chance. Do you want to read a book, 3 to 10 minutes? Or read poetry or lyrics?
Yeah, sure.
Anything you want, go ahead.
So, I guess I can read St. Severus of Antioch. This is against the Empire's Grammarian, Oration 1. He says, this is chapter 3. It is characteristics of heretics to fabricate motives and to assume the appearance of one defending himself. At the outset of the Grammarian, constructing a sort of prologue directed at certain monks leading a more immaterial life, not involving themselves in the affairs of those engaged in the world, he supposes that these monks, who lead such a life and profess the immediate on the law and God day and night, are in need of this art and teaching. Secondly, he claims that he suffers persecution for the sake of piety and fears the threats of those persecuting him. To these imaginary monks, concocted through a false account, I would say what Elijah the Tishbite said to the Israelites, who had so strayed from the service of God that they defiled a fly and consulted it for oracles and revelations. It is because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire Beelzebub, the god of Ikron. That's 2 Kings. So then, as Paul said, 1 Corinthians 6:5, is there not even one wise man among you who can discern what the true faith is, so that he may reject the foreign doctrine? Must you depend on a grammarian as your helper, as though he were an interpreter of doctrines? As for his excuse, in which he claims he fears and trembles at threats and writes in fear, a claim he repeats poorly throughout the whole book, he relies on petty insults and is lifted up with the arrogance, boasting, and the boldness of blasphemy. Which shall we say about this? That deceit, the simulation, are native to heretics, who always strive to assume the posture of these persecuted, that by a show of humility they might ensnare the listener. What does he say then? Grammachius, the son of heretics attack us most boldly, and now we even fear to name them. We are full of audacity, and only against us, but also against the Orthodox faith. Does not St. Basil similarly rebuke the impious Eunomius for invoking empty fear as a pretense in such nonsense? It's Eunomius talking. In addition, do not judge us harshly if we do not care about self-conceit and fear, seeing that we value indemnity in the world to come more highly than present favor or security, and we deem the punishments determined for the impious and cause for more fear than any earthly misery or temporal death. And so we expound the truth expound the truth stripped of every covering. Likewise, this noble grammarian says that he fears not only for himself itself, clearly introducing this idea. For Eunomius too said that having despised fear and temporal death and all other things listed, he would have preferred to write the truth openly, without a veil, and declaring that the threats from the impious, which are ordained by God, are especially to be feared. Mourn then, O listeners, with him who shifts the threats directed at the faith onto himself, and wishes as far as he can to fight on his behalf. So declare them, O valiant men, declare these threats, and you will find many listeners who will mourn with you. All right, that was chapter 3. Are y'all tracking?
This is Joanna. I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm with you, bud.
All right, chapter 4. That he has falsely claimed, without writing or demonstration, that we who confess one incarnate nature of the Word of God confuse and reduce flesh and divinity into one substance. The grammarian falsely claims, without document and without proof, that we who confess the one nature of God, the Word incarnate, confuse and reduce the flesh and the divinity into one substance. He say, they zealously anathematize the Holy Synod of Chalcedon, so as to bring forth into our very altar Eutyches and those who emulate his doctrine, and they proclaim without veil Christ's divinity and flesh as one substance and one nature. Nor are they ashamed to oppose Gregory the wonder maker, who says in his 11th anathema, if anyone says that the flesh of Christ is consubstantial with the divinity, and does not confess that he was in the form of God, existing before the ages, and emptied himself, and took the form of a servant when he became incarnate, as it is written, let him be anathema. Gregory Thaumaturgus, anathema 11. Nor do they revere Athanasius, the star of the Alexandrian city, who wrote similarly to the words of the wonder worker in his epistle to the Epictetus. What infernal pit has spewed forth the claim the body from Mary is the same in substance with the divinity of the Word, or that the Word has been changed into flesh, bones, hair, and the whole body? What an accusation! How subtle, how cunning, how fortified the testimonies of the fathers! Can you then say, O grammarian, for your entire discourse plainly targets, as you confess in many places of your little book, that I have stated with those very words that the body taken from the Virgin Mary, animated by the rational soul, and hypostatically united to the Word, is consubstantial with the Word of God, with God the Word? Indeed, I did not speak in secret in the land of darkness, Isaiah, as the prophet Isaiah said, or rather he who spoke through him, exposing the shame of the one bold and blind to what is manifest. Bring forward and show that you have found in me of your accusation. Take judges for your accusation. True judges are those who, with love of truth, examine what you have assembled against us. Shall I not now say that you what Jacob said to Laban? What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? Although you have fled all my goods, and what you have found of all your household goods, set it here before my kinsmen and your kinsmen, that they may decide between us two. For the vessels of your house are those things which are wholly foreign to my house, namely to say that the holy body assumed from Mary is consubstantial with God the Word, or to say that the immutable and uncreated divinity of the only begotten was changed into flesh, or again, that the flesh was changed into the substance of the divinity, things which the Holy Synod has rejected and condemned as a heresy, and anathematized those who think such things, with the whole mind and the whole mouth. This very point the Venerable Synod of Egypt, not only once or twice, but often expressed in and received in writing form from the Eastern Synod. Both sides unanimously proclaim Christ, the Word of God, truly made man and incarnate, having assumed flesh, consubstantial with us, animated by a rational soul, and made like us in all things, except sin, so that he is consubstantial with the Father and the Holy Spirit according to divinity, and consubstantial with us according to humanity, and remains so forever, he who will come again, clothed in body and divinity and exalted glory, who before and beyond the ages was without body. He is the Son. He is the one Son, one Lord Jesus Christ, one person, one hypostasis, one nature of God, and God the Word incarnate, and so will judge the world in righteousness, and be seen by those who pierced him. As sacred scriptures cries, was it hidden from you alone that they taught and wrote these things in their synodical letters? As the whole world under heaven bears witness. For they everywhere taught that it was written, for this was not done in a corner, as Paul said to the king. Do you then think that because they anathematize the Chalcedonian Synod, they favor the impious opinions of Eutyches? Or that they assign the same substance to the body taken from Mary, and to God the Word, whose own body by the incarnation became homogeneous with us and consubstantial? Would they sacrilegiously carry such unclean things into the sacred mysteries and the altar? But against you speak with many writings of those fathers, and severely rebuke you and your kind, vainly rash and insolent. Therefore do not ask as blessed Athanasius did, for what infernal pit has spewed forth such impious and blasphemous things? But look to yourself. If you will, send, and you will clearly see that your throat alone has belched these upon us. And read the word written by David that strikes you. Their throats is an open sepulchre. They flatter with their tongue. Make them bear their guilt, O God. For how would you not be guilty before the judgment of God, who have written this accusation against two holy synods without presentation and any argument? For you had nothing to say, but fled immediately, and having dropped the mask of the accuser, as your artful style tends, modestly and again assume the persona of one fleeting. After you rushed to accuse like a lizard, yet took on the cunning of a fox. For you said to that bold and stealthily shift, Grammarius, but now is it not the time to refute their impious doctrines? I think it will suffice for me to be a defender of what is rightly stated by the Holy Fathers assembled at Chalcedon. If you then stepped forward to be a defender and build a defense, you ought from the start to have undertaken a defense, and not to begin like a destitute widow with the accusation of slyly abandonment. only to prepare it again towards the end of your little book with a deceit that suits you, but in whose nets none will be caught unless he be a creature wholly deprived of intellect. Alright, that was the end of chapter 4.
That was very good.
I see what you're saying. I understand. But how is it going to get to the point where there's an attempt to resolve how Christ is human and divine?
Yeah, that was just the introduction that Saint Severus made. He's gonna get into where he talks about the Severian dilemma, and he's gonna try to refute the Chalcedonians that say in two natures.
All right, bro. I'm kind of a Chalcedonian, so I want to hear this.
How you want me to read more?
Yeah, if you're interested. Yeah. You told me about this last time, right?
Oh yeah, I did.
You told me to read this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading Oration 1 right now. I'm not reading Oration.
If you can get to that part where you believe it resolves this, like, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I'll just continue with the Oration 1 then. So, chapter 5. Alright. A clear refutation on the accusation first abandoned by him without argument, then later reaffirmed, wherein it is shown that this man falsely claims that we, in saying one nature, that is, one hypostasis, mean one substance, that he himself blasphemously claims or calls the composition made without change a mixing, although it is in fact the formation of one hypostasis from two things of different substances. For from a small excerpt of what I once wrote to the wretched... No! What? Alright.
He's just busy with his personal life. Please continue.
Alright. When I went to the wretched Nephalius, he thinks I am liable to the charge of confusing and mixing substances, but I will immediately transcribe that very little sentence which he violently tore out of the fuller context of the discourse, and I will set it apart so that whoever encounters it may know that even taken on its own, it stands far removed from the accusation. For when I was speaking about the constitution of man, I say, the two together, soul and body, is one nature. How then could someone held any thought of confusion admit that the two together is one nature? For if from confusion they had been turned into something simple and one, how would the two together appear in the one? For the two together is indicative of composition without confusion and singularity, that is, in one hypostasis, and not at all of something simple, such indeed is the human being like us. One nature and hypostasis from soul and body. St. Cyril talking. For not only in the case of those which are simple by nature is the term one truly used, but also in respect to that which to what has been brought together according to a synthesis. As man is one being who is soul and body, for soul and body are different species and are not consubstantial to each other. But when united, they produce one physis of man, even though the considerations of the synthesis, the difference exists according to the nature of those which have been brought together into a unity. These are not the very words of St. Cyril, which you recite with your mouth, as if pretense to seem like ones who speaks rightly, while in your mind you do not hold them at all. For unless you have maliciously,
Malicious.
malicious, yeah, that's the word, thought that one in nature and hypostasis means the same as one in substance. You would not be unjustly slander those who make a true confession by transferring that composition without change to something simple that has arisen from confusion. Okay, that was chapter 5. This is chapter 6. He's going to get into Saint Cyril now. Oh, this chapter's like 5 pages long. All right. Chapter 6. That Saint Cyril also repelled with the same doctrines and concordant words the vain slander of those who accused him of acting like the Jews in mixing natures. For just as the heretics then, so how you too are greatly concerned that the one nature proclaimed by the Orthodox be distorted into an equality of substance, as if to twist what is rightly stated. Listen to Saint Cyril, who shares in the same slander with me and plainly repels it. For in the oration on the unity of Christ, after the first introduction of the person of his interlocutor, namely the one with whom he was conversating and disputing, he says the following. This is Cyril talking. B. If that case, both natures must have been confused and they become one. A. But who would be so misguided and stupid as to think that the divine nature of the word had changed into something which formerly was not, or that the flesh was changed by some kind of transformation into the nature of the word himself? This is impossible. We say that there is one Son, and that he has one nature, even when is considered as having assumed flesh, endowing with the rational soul. As I have already said, he had made the human element his own. And this is the way, not otherwise, that we may consider that this same one is at once God and man. Behold, Saint Cyril himself said that Christ is one nature, understanding nature not as you and the demand of the impious do, as one and simple, that is, identical according to substance, but as one hypostasis arising from the non-confused composition of things that are not consubstantial with each other. Will you, then again, by removing a single sentence from the connected context of the discourse, that is, the sentence that follow and proceed, that are found throughout the entire structure of the oration, slander the wise doctor? Will you acknowledge indeed that he said that we say the Son is one and that his nature is one, but then also twist even his very words against him and turn his authority into a point of accusation? Will you say that he himself also wrote when he sent his second letter to Census? Cyril, for if in saying that one thesis of the word, thesis means nature, by the way, one thesis, one nature, we had been silent by not mentioning incarnate, but as it were, setting aside the dispensation of his incarnation, doubtless their statement would not have been incredible to them, as they pretend to ask, where is the perfection in the humanity, or how the essence like to us subsisted? Why then, you ask, did he now omit incarnate and state badly, we say that the Son is one and his nature is one, without adding incarnate, but you slander and repel this impudent and unlearned mouth is shut by words that proceed and follow in the passage you've excerpted, where he repels and removes any idea of change and confesses the assumption of flesh animated by a rational soul. For he also added, this is Cyril talking, of a rational soul having, for I have said, his humanity has become his own, after he had already removed the suspicion of change and said in his proceeding, but who be so misguided and stupid as to think that the divine nature of the word had changed into something which formerly it was not, or that the flesh was changed by some kind of transformation into the nature of the word himself? This is impossible. Therefore, if we hear God and our Lord Jesus in the gospel saying, do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment, let us also consider the sentences that follow my excerpt, and how the passage is concluded. For in the writings addressed to Nephalius, I quoted the passage of the God-bearing Athanasius, which is found in the life of Anthony, the head of the Mosaic life and true philosophy, written in the form of a narrative which he recounts his struggle with the accuser and the subsequent victory, saying this. This is St. Athanasius talking now. Indeed, he who had thought he was like to God was here made a fool of by a stripling of a man. He who in his conceit disdained flesh and blood, was now routed by a man in the flesh. Verily the Lord worked with this man, he who for our sakes took on flesh and gave to his body victory over the devil. Afterwards I added these words of holy Athanasius. Behold how Athanasius has spoken both of the man like us and of the Lord. He took flesh, for just as we, who are said to be clothed in flesh, are one thing, one nature, both soul and body, yet not one who wears and another that is worn, so also the Lord with his own flesh, clearly animated with a rational soul, was likewise made one without change. Why did you remove these and only transcribe one dissect sentence? Are you just? Do you rejoice in the truth, and are you zealous? Are you a zealous defender of the faith? For when you hear us proclaim that the union of the word of God with humanity is immutable, you bring the charge of change, and in your ignorant booklet you question me, saying, this is the grammarian talking, which doctor of the church taught you this? O man, was it Cyril? And yet he teaches and writes such things to presbyters, deacons, and fathers of monks, namely that the Virgin Mary is Theotokos, such just as the soul of man is generated with its own body and is considered one thing with it. Although by nature it is understood to be different, and it is so according to its own principle. But hear the name Cyril speaking, unless you are only able to hear part of his teachings, that the soul and body of man, through understood and indeed being different according to nature, result in one nature through their mutual composition and the natural union of the immutable concurrence. For he wrote in a letter to Valerian, to Cyril talking, the nature of man is admitted to be one to be hypostasis. Then say also to him, struck by the madness of ignorance and useless stinging me. Grammarian, so this is the grammarian talking here. If you say the soul of man is different according to nature from its own body, how can there be one nature and constitution of man? And are you not ashamed to assert that the soul and the body are the same? For this plainly what you also babbled at us, but Cyril answers you, and quite easily, madman, do you think you go unnoticed while you deceitfully or ignorantly the name of the nature,
That
that which is substance,
the
and
play piano?
understand one nature, that is hypostasis, as if it meant one and the same substance. For when I said that the soul of man is different in nature from the body, I proclaimed that there are two, neither co-natural nor consubstantial. But when I said the nature of man is admitted to be one, I meant that the immutable composition and natural union, one nature and hypostasis, is formed. Nor did you hear me when I wrote to Sixensis, saying, so this is Cyril, for soul and body are different species and are not consubstantial to each other. But when united, they produce one physis of man, even though in the considerations of the synthesis, the difference exists according to the nature of those which have been brought together into a unity. And although we confess that one absolute nature also exists through the union of soul and body into one hypostasis of the living being, let us by no means speak of equality of substance or confusion, but rather of one hypostasis from both together, as the writings to the Valerian show. So Cyril talking. For the nature of man is admitted to be one and one hypostasis, even if it is known to be different realities of diverse kinds. For the body is admittedly of a different nature relative to the soul, but it is the soul's own body and helps to complete the one hypostasis of the one man. Therefore, when you hear that one absolute nature exists through the natural union of soul and body, understand rightly that one hypostasis is being indicated. Listen to the wise doctor who said that the body is proper to the soul, and that it is together they perfect the one hypostasis of the one man, but do not, by twisting what is rightly said into perverse understanding, accuse us of saying one nature as if it meant one substance, as though the things different in species are and not consubstantial from which the union was formed had been confused into an equality of substance. Nor should you shamelessly rebuke, boldly and ignorantly turning the argument against me and saying, this is the grammarian talking, are you not ashamed to say that we are indeed clothed in flesh, and yet to posit that the soul and body are the same substance? Hey, you where you have hidden, you who are sought out by those who judge rightly, so that you may show from my very words the truth of your accusation. Explain where in my words I have said that the substance of the soul and the body is the same. Show that the meaning of what I said aligns with your accusation, so that the judges may rule in your favor. But you cannot do so unless, as usual, you lie, and once again you are proven to be lying. All right, that's the end of chapter 6.
I'm still not seeing the solution.
Yeah, no, he's just using church fathers to prove his point, or to defend his point.
Seems like he's negating the other side without substantiating his point.
Well, the grammarian that he's talking about here is accusing him of Eutychianism and other heresies, right? So he's trying to defend his point by saying what he says is orthodox, right? And by St. Cyril.
I'll go for it.
No, I gotta go now, though.
I don't know. I was hoping to hear like his analytics on the matter. Like, how is he gonna humanity? I understand the premise, like the humanity and the divinity, one nature, without mixing, without becoming a new nature. No demigod, no substance or transfiguration.
Yeah.
But still, it just sounds like you have two things and some sort of union, and
Yeah, there is a
union
union. There's a union into one. From
yeah,
two.
but one without mixing. Do you see that's a unity? That's not
No, yeah, we don't say that the natures mixed. We say that they mingled.
okay, like me mingling in a party, like okay.
Yeah, I guess, bro. I don't know.
I'm with you, man. Like I understand. I honestly don't see this as an issue. Like I don't see how this is a problem, other than like the Miaphysite side coming to, I don't want to say our side, but the Chalcedonian side, and
yeah, we're working on a.
Well, y'all hold to two natures.
Huh?
So the notion that Chalcedonian would hold to two natures,
Yeah.
and so that seems to be the crux of the issue. Like, at least in my humble opinion, like one nature, which is what you guys are saying, versus two natures. But when you describe your one nature, it sounds pretty much the same.
I mean, it's not. I mean, you couldn't say that, I guess. Anyway,
I don't see this as like an attempt to maintain like domain.
What is
Eastern churches just want to remain distinct from the West?
I mean, they kind of they split from us. So I mean, they made the Council of Chalcedon by splitting. So. I mean,
okay, so in the book club, we try to limit conversations to 30 seconds because we just want information out there. We don't necessarily need to debate the information, comprehend it, integrate it, or do anything with it. We're just looking to share information. So you can read 3 to 10 minutes. Joanna, do you want to read today? Joanna, hello? No? Just passively listening? Okay, great.
Sounds like a good idea if people like have a specific topic and they could just read from a text or something. I think, that's a good idea.
Yeah, try to respond with what you're reading as opposed to, discussing or debating or trying to incorporate it into your worldview framework. Okay. Illumi, do you want to read?
Like reading too much, and people, there needs to be a digest kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This book club, I think specifically, at least for this meeting, should be all just about reading as opposed to having complex debates about what we're reading. And if we do, we should limit it to 30 seconds or 3 minutes, but not like have full-fledged conversations as we always do on this app.
Yeah, let the book do
the
argument.
Yeah, that would be nice. Okay, do you want to read for 3 to 10 minutes, Illumi?
I'm good, man.
You're good? You got read out?
I definitely I just don't. The book, I already read it. So in that sense, I don't think people can necessarily follow along. It isn't, like I said, you need to understand time.
Part of this, though, is also just like you're trying to modify your experience on the app by forcing you to read. It changes your experience here. It changes your day.
No, I like the notion of a book club. Like, I like it if people are truly committed in that sense. Like, there's a book and you have a week to check it out. Like, I've been part of this, but it always like kind of dies out at the end. Usually, like you start the year like in college, and usually you would join one, and it dies out somewhere half the year, right before mid and finals, so people get distracted or busy. But it is a good way to get more books under your.
Yeah, I find the challenge of reading a book is the loneliness aspect, not the boringness aspect. That's the hard part about choosing to read, is it's very lonely to do it. So that this makes it a shared experience, which makes reading less, boring or painful, because it's just like, so,
What
it's
like
just
reading. To me, it's not boring. If it's a topic I'm really interested in. So it's like the books I get are stuff that I'm definitely looking into. So my thing, metaphysics, time, analytics, like this is my guy. Plus he comes on this app, so he shows up every now and then, and he allows for a stage. And I just really like people like that who are really interested in what they do, and they write with a passion, and in a sense they're debating in their text. So this text is like very good in the sense that it highlights the key issues. And again, one of the main reasons I'm looking into the Trinity and Christology is because of him.
okay. Lumi, do you want to explain to Draco the rules of the Clown House Book Club?
Yeah, so apparently we read for, you want to read like 2 or 3 pages or for 3 to 10 minutes, and maybe get some feedback, and we carry on. Hopefully I explained that.
So Draco, we don't debate topics in this room. We just read for 3 to 10 minutes. Can you do it? Can you read a book, Draco? Or are you in your car headed to your next event for the day? I bet you're in your car.
I will be in about 30 minutes.
I like to use Clubhouse in the car, actually. That's when I actually like to talk. But when I'm at my home in my office, I would prefer to just read books. But Dennis, do you want to read anything? Or Draco, do you want to read anything since you're at home?
Yeah, I'm actually, thanks so much, but actually I'm about right now. I'm on the road, so I don't have any books. But Draco, you got anything you want to read? Not at the moment.
Okay, the stage is only for book readers. Everyone else has to go to your home in the goo where non-book readers live, in the slime and in the slop of the goo.
What's your favorite book right now?
Right now, I'm reading Ayn Rand's The Virtue of Selfishness because somebody on this app calls themselves an objectivist, and he claims Ayn Rand is the greatest thing since, Twinkies. And so I wanted to read it to find out what this R word is talking about. And it turns out Ayn Rand is a genius, but the R word that recommended the book is an R word. And he didn't really explain what the book is about. It's all about ethics. Yeah, Simon, the R word. The atheist who figured out he was an atheist at 5 years old. 5 years old.
The issue with Ayn Rand is that they're using it to dismiss Kant, which I just don't think she's even up on par to be locking heads with someone like Kant. And I just find these people desperate for a savior. And I just don't understand what about Kant that people want dismissed other than grounding things into some sort of framework. So
see, this is the problem with Clown House, is you're doing what I don't want in this room, which is debate or discussion primarily. I just want information from books to get out. That's the whole point of this room. I know it's arbitrary, but
book, if you send me the text or a PDF, I'm down to get down on Ayn Rand with you. Just because I do have a bone to pick with Simon.
Okay. Exactly.
I am noticing that this name is becoming proliferant on the
this happen. It's time to.
I call him the Whisperer.
Yeah, no, I want to take down Simon. I want to take him out.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you read this book, I don't know how familiar he is with this particular work. He claims he's been studying Ayn Rand books for 14 years, but in my opinion, he explained it horribly, or he just doesn't really have full comprehension. But here's the PDF version of what I'm reading, The Virtue of Selfishness. I think it's probably an important book as opposed to her novels, because this is about her philosophy, and she refers to her novels in this book, where she says, for a fuller understanding, read Atlas Shrugged. But this book's...
Thank you, John.
You're welcome, Dennis. So, let me just pin the link. And I'm only doing this because, Simon doesn't seem like the worst person in the world. He seems like a nice person. But he can be so infuriating and frustrating, because I call him the Whisperer. He's just constantly whispering his objectivist, altruistic ethic. But I think he's a bad communicator. But anyways, what I'm interested in is trying to grasp the concepts in the book.
I agree.
Yeah. I want to grasp the concepts in the book so I can refute Simon or just mock him for not really understanding the true meaning. For example, the title, The Virtue of Selfishness, is a clickbait title. There's no virtue in selfishness. So she uses that as her clickbait title. And because the book really deals with subjective or objective ethics, and ethics is like something that you could discuss, and then you find out that the liberals have no ethics. They just don't. They claim they do, but then when you question the hard ethical decisions like abortion or taxation, all these, they have no opinions, and they're basically just unethical human beings. And this is why I think Ayn Rand is important, because you can force people into an Ayn Rand perspective. And I think Ayn Rand does a good job of disproving liberal philosophy and showing that it's a farce, in the same way that I think I can prove Muhammad, was a gangster, and that the Charter of Medina, the Constitution of Medina, to me seems like a gangbanger document. It seems like something that gang members have to write down.
How about this? I'll do this with you. I'll commit to some time. Like, we can try to do this book club thing. If you are someone who's gonna commit to a methodology.
Well,
at the same time, you commit to providing, if you are coming to conclusions, that you would provide me an AI summary of what you believe to be these conclusions and your justification for these conclusions. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can just be however amount of words you want to use to justify that conclusion. That's all. So a page, whatever, it's AI now. But that's my thing. I feel like you can read, but if you're not digesting and you're not writing this down, you don't really have to write it.
I get it.
These days.
Well, look at it this way. I publish live on YouTube and everything, so I get community guideline strikes when I speak about Islam and Muhammad, because the algorithm views that as racist, abusive hate speech against a protected class. Now, as a politician, if I believe Islam is an invasive political attempt to take over our Western governments through subversive religious means, I'm still censored. So to me, that's like all the proof that I need that Islam is a great tool in terms of fighting what I would view as, subversive political control. Anyways, I'm just saying that Google YouTube, in my opinion, is so woke, and it's fully automated.
It's not, bro.
It is.
I literally put a video on YouTube, and my shit, not only did it get banned, but my Apple ID account got black. So every time I try, if I'm gonna make It is that serious, bro. They put me on
Well, what did you post?
dangerous organizations, like
See?
advocates for like criminal dangerous organizations. Yeah.
Are you sure your Apple ID got flagged? Yeah, classes.
I literally had to go and I made a new email and everything.
Was it a DS lockout? Like what's that?
I'm not sure. I'm actually investigating that. So I've logged out of all the Google accounts and like kind of just like been one by one kind of reintroducing. But I feel like if I try to open a channel on any email, like it's gonna know. Like they have a way of figuring it out.
Yeah, they can
And
tell.
It's kind of really tripping me the fuck out because I'm cybersecurity. I'm like, how the fuck do you know my info? How are you recognizing?
Dude, you have a huge pattern that you've created on the internet. Like it's hard.
I
Anyways.
understand the trackers. I know how to keep all that separate, but I think I figured it out. It's the passkeys. So you got to be careful of passkeys. There is somehow Google and whatever package you have all your passkeys in, they fucking know. Even though Apple has it all encrypted, but there's somehow they know based on the pattern. I mean, I'm using it. I've got like the VPNs up, but yeah, I'm still thinking I'm processing this, but
Okay, well, let's just take a pause from the cybersecurity discussion. Let's focus back on.
No, I'm talking about you.
Let's focus back on the book club, which
You don't
means
wanna
we
have a
read
YouTube
books.
channel. I understand. Just pause for a second. Do you have time, bro? And I have ideas, and we all have points. We don't necessarily see eye to eye, but I believe that is where content can, that's where
I
content
don't think we will ever be rewarded in any way, shape, or form by Google
Well,
YouTube.
hey, listen, man, if you're going to be a defeatist about this already, then
I'm not.
You're not going to accomplish anything.
I'm trying to tell you what I think would save us time.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Mikhail, all I'm saying is that reading books is more valuable than our conversations. That's my opinion.
I understand, but if you have a channel, if we have a channel where we can pour in our understandings, and it can show a diversity. So in the sense where you're coming out where, like I'm being perceived as Islamophobic, or I'm being perceived as someone who's advocating for terrorism, or this guy's being perceived.
Well, I'm not. That's a you problem. What I'm telling you is that, in my opinion, basically, I'm just an audiobook publisher, and that's how I think I can make my life better, psychologically, intellectually, but also maybe financially. But then also,
you don't want any social media legacy.
I'm just trying to improve my life by using technology. When I'm dead, I'm gone. Who cares? I mean, nobody's going to look up my shit or think about me.
Well, I'm going to try to make
gone.
another YouTube channel, and if it gets locked out, then I'm going to probably go to one of you guys.
Well, there's, you can buy a Motorola burner phone for $40, activate it for 1 month at $15, and boom, you got a totally clean
I'm worried. I'm
internet
really
presence.
worried. It might be the payment info. That's what I'm worried because when
No,
you get the
there's
YouTube
just
membership.
No, they can't. You can even modify your name a little bit, and trust me, that's not what it is. It's just your device. You just need a new device. It's like you're getting cookie tracked, and like it knows, because when you block people, it says, do you want to block them from future accounts as well? Because they can basically, pin the accounts.
I deleted the Google ID. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, don't overthink it. Because I've gone through 100 accounts. I've been blocked and banned and kicked a gazillion times. But they can't keep up with me because I can get new devices for $45 with totally immune. But I've had, how many Clubhouse accounts I've had? You probably have had as many as me. 30. I probably had 30 Clubhouse accounts because losers on this app just don't like the fire that I bring. So they report. And it's not like I'm making death threats. It's not like I'm saying anything, I'm just mocking people, not even like totally cruelly. I'm just like trying to like tease people a little bit. But this is the book club where we want to focus our minds, our very existence on reading what we hope will be very beneficial. And if you've invited people to the room, Megatron, if you want to invite people, if you want to read anything new, Dennis, if you have a book, Illumi, if you have a book, 2 pages I think is a good place to start. And if you're really flowing and you want to keep going, then you can go to 3 pages. And if you get through 3 and you think you can go to 4, then go to 4. And if you can get up to 10 pages for Bono Shell Olam, 10, not 11, 10, not 9, maybe you're reading something Kabbalistic.
I don't want to be reading to myself 10 pages, crowd.
No, I mean, we'll be listening to you, and this is all being live streamed on YouTube right now. So, it's being put out there. And I talked to my attorney a couple of weeks ago, and she said, so what are you doing? And she Googled me, and she's like, wait, you're just reading books on the internet? I said, yeah. She says, okay. Okay.
Bro, like, I'm just saying you got the time and the resources to be built. I'm not saying whatever we're going to commit to is going to be something that might necessarily succeed. But I'm just saying you're never going to know until you try. And you could say, well, I've tried before, but like, honestly, on your own, I don't think you're good. But together, if you're able to, and I'm not saying a dictatorship, but I'm just saying like a plan.
We don't need a plan, and that's not important who we are. What's important, the thing is, Clubhouse brings together all the elements we need without even any type of pre-discussion or anything. We're doing it right now. I talk to people all the time. They say, oh, I'm going to make a movie. I got the script. You want to be an actor? And I'm like, listen, dude, you're on my YouTube live right now telling me about it, and it's on, like, this is the movie. Like, and you're never going to go film that fucking movie, so this is the movie.
What do we got?
You're all about books. We need to read this. We need to read that. I don't know what you were talking
No, I'm not specific on which book. You can read any book you want. Doesn't matter to me what you read.
Megatron was talking about text. Forgot which one was it?
He was talking about the hypostasis of the archons.
Yeah, it was Archons.
What is it?
It's about the Archons, the rulers of the Archons, or it's in
something more Christian Orthodox, like Gnostic.
It was Gnostic.
The promise, or what is it? Gospel of something you wanted.
It was here. I'll put it in the chat, and I'll show you the page. I just randomly went to a page because I was reading some Kabbalah stuff like I normally do. Yeah, when are we gonna venture into the Jew stuff?
We can do it today, right now.
Yeah, but he needs better.
I want Fred, which is the Alabah, the Drash. Genesis Rabbi.
I don't need Midrash because that's basically the New Testament. So
Genesis Rabbi is not just. I don't even know if it's really a Midrash. It's more like a text, a revelation.
Book. Where's this book? Where's this book? There we go. Archimedes.
So I think
let's do some layups though, because you're focusing too much on shooting. Though I never seen you do a layup. see you once do a layup. No, don't see you do layups. Hold on, let me look this up. That you just shot that. You just ran and shot the ball. That's not a layup. A layup is with one hand and you lift your opposite foot up. Yeah, good job. Okay. That was another running, shooting thing. What is that? What was that? He's in it again. Hold on, I need to focus on this. You need to.
Okay, he's busy working on layups. Dennis, the stage is for book readers. If you want to read a book or Illumi, otherwise, I'm going to read a book. And I hope you enjoyed my book submission. I hope it enlightens your day and you say, oh my gosh, that was pretty smart. But I'm going to get out of Ayn Rand. We're finishing up on page 26 on Ayn Rand. The next book I will be reading from is from Aleister Crowley. Alamatic. But this is called The Gnostic Anthem. I think I've read it before here. I think Illumi may have heard me read it before. It's called The Gnostic Anthem. So take the deepest breath of the day. Okay, this is the Gnostic Anthem. Thou who art I beyond all I am, who has no nature and no name, who art when all but thou are gone, thou center and secret of the sun, thou hidden spring of all things known and unknown, thou aloof, alone, thou the true fire within the reed, brooding and breeding, source and seed of life, love, liberty, and light, thou beyond speech and beyond sight, thee I invoke, abiding one, the center and secret of the sun, and that most holy mystery of which the vehicle am I, appear most awful and most mild, as it is lawful in thy child. For of the Father and the Son, the Holy Spirit is the norm. Male, female, quintessential, one. Man being veiled in woman form, glory and worship in the highest. Thou dove, mankind that defiest, being that race most royally run, to spring sunshine through winter storm, glory and worship to thee, sap of the world ash, wonder tree, glory to thee from gilded tomb, glory to thee waiting womb, glory to thee from earth unplowed, glory to thee from virgin vowed, glory to thee, true unity of the eternal Trinity, glory to thee, thou sire in dam, and self of I am that I am. Love is the law, love under will. Okay, that was the Gnostic anthem. Oh, welcome to the book club. Dennis, did you like the Gnostic anthem?
Yeah, I loved it.
Joanna!
Yes.
Welcome, Angel Joanna. I was just looking at some really cool photos of Studio 54.
Yeah.
Oh my